Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles Sabanson, and welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamers Pro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, when we give you guys a fresh perspective on things. And always see them. Today we have a hell of a show in store for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. So, as you guys know, LeBron made a lot of news last week where he announced that he's going to be taking a break from social media. And then we kind of got an insight as to why he was doing that when he liked the post from, I guess, a friend of his, Rich Kleiman. He put up a series of quotes, things that he said, and we were able to infer into what LeBron was saying. And a lot of people, including myself, as a matter of fact, it was the first thing we put in the title of our show we produced. I said LeBron James is essentially running away, has having a breakdown because of the criticisms towards Bronny James, right? I believe that was getting to him, that all the money he has in the world cannot control how people react to Bronny. Right. And people were talking about fans, because it's not people in media, because people in media have been handling the Bronny situation with kid gloves. No one has really been calling it like a see. Some people have just been flat out reluctant to even talk about it. Why? Because it's LeBron's son. You got just a bunch of people up there twerking it up all day long on television. No one really wants to give a honest analysis of it. But after LeBron put out those tweets, they tabled this issue on ESPN First Take, and Stephen A. Smith made his points. But I knew, as Stephen A. Smith always seems to do, that he was going to go on his show and expand upon his thoughts. So that's exactly what he did. So during the Stephen A. Smith show that night, he had on Greg Anthony. They were talking about the Diddy case, LeBron, Bronny, and all of that. And then it got to a particular segment where he was talking about the role that LeBron James played in all of this. And what Stephen A. Smith essentially began to do was basically expose LeBron James for being the reason, the central reason for all of the criticism and the ineptitude from Bronny James this NBA season. So for those of you who didn't hear what Stephen A. Smith had to say, I want to play his comments for you now, and I'm going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say here.
Let me get to the bigger point about LeBron James. LeBron James choosing to step off of social media. And I was hesitant to bring this up because I didn't want to. Because LeBron James is approaching age 40. He is on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, one of the top 2 players in NBA history. And we will miss him when he is gone. He's a special, special dude on all fronts. But none of us are perfect. And LeBron James electing to get off of social media, is that because of you, LeBron James? Or is it because of your son, Bronny James, and his struggles in the D-League and the NBA, prior to that, college basketball, prior to that, high school basketball, when he was an All-American averaging 14 points a game, and people said no All-American averages 14 points a game? It's probably the latter. You know, Greg Anthony alluded to this earlier, and that's why I asked him the question. When you think about LeBron James and what LeBron James had to say, Greg Anthony made a very valid point. The level of vitriol that LeBron James has experienced throughout his career, he's one of the most scrutinized superstars in history. It's not because he's LeBron James. It's because when he came along is when social media shortly followed. Imagine what scrutiny Charles Barkley and MJ and Isaiah and others would have received had there been the existence of social media, had there been Instagram and X, or formerly known as Twitter, and Facebook and TikTok and all of this other stuff. Imagine what it would have been if they played during that time. So we understand that LeBron James has received a heightened level of scrutiny, but we also understand that he's fully capable of taking and absorbing it and stomaching it. So why step away now? Truthfully speaking, it only makes sense that it's Bronny James. Not to be redundant, but it's necessary to be that way. Bronny James doesn't belong in the NBA. Not yet. Some people say never. I don't believe that. I believe the kid has a chance. And I think that he's going to do, I believe in him. I believe in his work ethic, his faith, et cetera, et cetera. But he's not ready yet. Which brings this back to LeBron James. We don't have to scrutinize Bronny James in terms of points per game average and all of this other stuff. Please, he's a kid. He'll come along. He'll work on his game. Hopefully, he'll earn his stripes. Respectfully, this is all LeBron's fault. It was LeBron James that told the world sitting next to his wonderful wife, Savannah, for an interview. asked the question, what does he want for Bronny? What do they want for Bronny? She said, I just want him to be happy. LeBron James said, I want to play with him in the NBA. I want him in the NBA. And then, because he's LeBron James, he greased the skids and facilitated it happening, ensuring through Rich Paul that nobody would draft Bronny James before the Lakers grabbed him, because there were teams tempted to do it just to keep him away from the Lakers and LeBron. Most importantly, LeBron James was caught saying publicly that Bronny James was better than some players in the NBA. Did you think people were going to forget that? See, I'm not getting into Bronny James because none of this is Bronny James' fault. He's just a kid out there working hard, trying to be the best that he can be, who is very blessed and fortunate to have a father like LeBron James, who loves him and had no ill intent whatsoever. But just because you didn't have ill intent doesn't mean that your intent didn't end up being ill-fated, because you put this kid behind an 8-ball and now he's a target for everybody. And whatever level of scrutiny he's experiencing and whatever difficulty he's having and stomaching and dealing with all of it is because his father couldn't keep his mouth shut. His father couldn't just play and say, I want my son happy no matter what he wants to do. It would be a dream come true to play in the NBA with him, but we can't have everything we want. Hopefully someday it happens and just left it alone. You didn't do that. And as a result, in all likelihood, Bronny James is experiencing an elevated level of scrutiny that would be difficult for anybody his age, with his experience, and with his unfamiliarity in being associated with this kind of critique.
So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say. Stephen A. Smith hit the nail on the head. He even brought up receipts from things that LeBron was saying in the past. The fact of the matter is, the vast majority of the blame that Bronny James is getting and the criticism that he's getting is because of his father, and because of the way that they handled the situation, which Stephen A. Smith perfectly described. Number one, Bronny ain't supposed to be there. You know that. But then nevertheless, you still forced him on the team. And then you started hearing these ridiculous stories about how he's not going to practice, how he's not going to travel with his G League team, the South Bay Lakers, and all of that. He's like, you were the one that went out there and started saying he was better than NBA players that you were watching. You were the one that said that he could definitely play on the Los Angeles Lakers right now, and all of that. That was disrespectful to your teammates, and you put this expectation on him from the public by basically praising him the way that you did. If you look at all the other NBA dads, it's like LeBron and Bronny, they're showing you, it's like a expose of what not to do. It's like a clinic of what not to do. Look at what all the other guys are doing. Shaq, you haven't heard a word from him. Scottie Pippen Jr., you didn't hear a word from him. Dwayne Wade, you haven't heard a word from him. Carmelo Anthony, you haven't heard a word from him. They're just going about doing their business. They're quiet about it. They're not making any noise about it. They're not heaping any expectations on them. Their kids are just letting them go out there and ball. That is it. Because the minute you start piling on additional pressure, you're setting them up for failure. Now, the only exception is if you know you have a standout player for a son, then maybe there's some exceptions to that. I'll give you some examples. LeVar Ball, his kids are good. They actually are really good. Look at LaMelo Ball right now. He just had a career night where he scored 50 points. So you could see LeVar Ball kind of had some wiggle room there because his sons were actually damn good. You look at how John Morant's father behaves. He's very, very, very vocal about his support for his son. But John Morant is a bad boy. So for him to go out there and be as vocal as he is in terms of his support for John Morant, his son is going to live up to it quite easily. But when you have a son that's coming into the NBA as a 55th pick, you don't need to heap all of that additional pressure on him and then factor in the fact that you are his father, LeBron James. Then you're just setting him up for failure. And that's essentially what's happening here. So LeBron is taking a hiatus from social media, and I think from what I've heard, Bronny James is now on the injury report. It's just a total shame, and I think that Stephen A. Smith is saying what needs to be said about this situation. So what I want to know from you guys, what do you think about what Stephen A. Smith had to say? Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. We catch you guys on the next show. Peace.